Okay. Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started and resume our Committee of the Whole meeting following short recess. So to get things started, I would like to ask if there are any items added to the agenda. I do have a couple. The first would be dry hydrants, and the second would be the West Richmond Education Centre. And councillors, if it's okay with you, I would like to add the West Richmond Education Centre, the surplus building, to the beginning of the agenda, right after our review of the minutes. Would folks be okay with that placement on the agenda? Okay. And are there any other additions?
Theo, did you have an update on the road issue with ATVs or nothing yet? Okay. Yep, no problem. So, yeah.
Didn't get a chance to work on it.
No problem.
No worries. Okay. So no further items added to the agenda. I'll ask for a motion to approve. Okay.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Councillor Melanie Sampson. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is the review of the minutes. And so we are looking at April 8th, 2024. Could I ask for a motion to approve those minutes if there are no errors or omissions?
I'll move to approve them.
Thank you, Councillor Brent Sampson. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Any further discussion on the minutes from April 8th? Okay, so the next, so I almost forgot to vote on that one. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion is carried. It's because I'm in a rush to get to talk about our surplus building and next steps, so. All right, so the next item on the agenda is regarding the former West Richmond Education Centre building, which was declared surplus by the county. And really, this is an update to, for council, staff, and members of the public that that we issued a tender for the building, and we are happy to say that the tender has been awarded to, is it Brila? Brila, I hope I'm saying that right? Brila Construction. So just want to say, thank you to Jeremy and his team for putting together such a really, strong bid on the facility. And we're hoping to be able to get a picture with you in a few minutes, if that's okay. But, I guess just in terms of information to the public, what this means is that the tender has been awarded, which, essentially our next steps will be to work with the successful proponent to, come to a contractual arrangement. So it's the first step in several steps that need to happen, but we're on the right track, and it's a giant leap forward for this project. So I'm going to open it for comments from councillors. I don't know, Councillor Melanie, this is in your district, if you wanted to say anything.
Just wanted to say that I'm very pleased. It's been a long time since we started discussions about the West Richmond facility and what it could potentially be, and I think it's quite exciting for District 3 for sure, but certainly for all the folks of Richmond County, because I think the project that's been brought forward is super inclusive and could really help everybody, I think. So pretty exciting.
Thanks, Councillor. So maybe we'll just take a quick minute to snap a picture, Jeremy, if that's okay with you. And councillors, if you wanted to jump in, you're welcome to do that as well. Okay, thanks, folks, for indulging us that time. It's an exciting day, so we're looking forward to moving forward. So, okay, the next item on the agenda is we have a couple of presentations today for as part of our committee of the whole, and the first is from Gina McDonald with Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health. So, Gina, I'll ask you to just come on up to the desk, and your presentation should be loaded up shortly. Hello, and we'll just, for the purposes of your discussion, you'll just press the button so that your mic is on, and yeah.
Good. All right. All right, can everybody see that? Perfect. So hi, everybody, again. I feel like I was just here, but I know that I wasn't. I'm going to give you a little recap of what the past year has looked like for Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health. We feel like we did have a really successful year. We got a lot of funding, and we were able to do a lot of great things with it. It's been extremely, extremely, extremely busy, but busy is good. So 2023 year in review. First, a little look at the logic model, which I sent a copy of. Basically, this is just a point form kind of overview of what it looked like when it was drawn up and the progress that we've made on it since. So the completed projects are those that we don't have to work on anymore, things like establishing the group. We finally have a revised and confirmed terms of reference. We've completed the promotional videos, digital platforms, legacy documentation, things like that, that are kind of foundational items in terms of making sure that we have a good foundation for the group and making sure that it grows in the right way. We also have items that are in progress, developing island-wide solutions and activities, working with some groups from the Cape Breton Regional Municipality as they get some of their healthcare groups underway. Working on a public education campaign and a healthcare professionals position profiles campaign with Nova Scotia Health. So there's lots of exciting things in the works. And then there are ongoing items that we will always be working on. So Google Analytics to make better use of the social media tools and the consultation that we had done recently to best leverage our assets and make sure that we're sending all of our best attributes to the right places. Again, social media maintenance and website maintenance, things like that. Appreciation activities, things that will always have to be done as long as Cape Breton South is a committee. So the logic model was provided. If you have any questions about specific items, then I will be happy to answer those. The outstanding items that will be worked on next year, CRM implementation was a big one. The funding for that will be applied for next year through the Office of Healthcare Professionals Recruitment. A lot of the different groups around the province have been going back and forth with what the best kind of CRM is for this type of work. And there are a couple of good options that were just discussed at the Office of Healthcare Professionals Recruitment Conference that we just had. So I expect funding for that to come through next year, and so that will be a 2025 project. Appreciation activities for learners is another one that we had on the list since the beginning. We don't really have any students who come through here because we don't have a residency program, but we are going to be working with the Doctors McNeil from Ayrshire and two of the new doctors from Port Hawkesbury to do a rural week next year, we hope, so that we're able to get students regularly from Dalhousie Medical School. And I'm excited about that. The applications just went through, so I'll know more about that next year. A mental health series, we're still not entirely sure what that looks like. It's a large project, it's an important project, but it's something that we just haven't touched yet, and hopefully we'll be able to start work on that within the next year, especially after our current projects with Nova Scotia Health are underway. Some of the activities that we got in 2023 were very, very successful. The Community of Care Awards Gala, which was a couple of weeks ago, was fantastic again, and I'm not sure if anybody here was there. Juanita was there. It was great. Everybody thinks that the awards are kind of like a stiff ordeal. The speeches, everybody says when they go up on the stage, I don't have to say anything, do I? And I always say, no, you don't have to say anything. Every single person makes a speech. Even though they don't want to say anything, every single person gets up there, and it all focused on the teams that they worked with. So it was a fantastic, fantastic night. I'm hoping that this event will long outlive me, because I think it's great for everybody in the community, not just healthcare workers, for their families, for the facilities, for the communities. It's good for everybody. So that was a really big success. We also have our Celebrating Professional Days of Recognition again. It's difficult to get through every single profession, but I really make an effort to do that, because it's often the ones that are most seldom recognized that are the most appreciative of just a small little act of appreciation for their profession. It is extremely successful, and I think that it goes a long way towards showing all of the healthcare community that we support the work that they're doing. So we do that throughout the year for every medical profession that I can manage to get to throughout the course of the 12 months. Doctor's Day this year was fantastic because of the themes that kind of came forward at the awards, where every single person there thanked the team that they worked with. We decided that we were going to make up pictures of the staff at each facility and give it to the physicians for Doctor's Day so that they could hang them on their wall. And so I presented those to the doctors on Doctor's Day, May 1st, and they all loved them, and they hang proudly in their offices. And I might have made a few copies for the facility managers and some of the nurses as well. We had a few appreciation barbecues. We had one at the Richmond Villa in St. Peters. We had one at the Straight Richmond Hospital, and we did have one at St. Anne's Centre, although Ashley in the diabetic clinic took the picture, and then she erased it off of her phone. So I'm going to throw her under the bus, and I don't have a picture of that one. But they're great. We met a lot of new staff, and it was nice to be able to talk to, the administrators, and everybody just kind of gets to chill out for the afternoon, and it's a nice little break from the clinical setting. And also Port Hawkesbury Nursing Home as well. Business of Medicine Retreat was held again in St. Peters. That was another success. I have a waiting list of about 40 people on this year's Business of Medicine list, and it's word is spreading because it's really it's very unique for a community to have this type of event. A lot of the different schools have similar, but this is the only one that really focuses on showing residents around the community and focusing on the community aspect as opposed to letting them go in and do work experience and things like that. So we don't know exactly how it's going to go this year, if we're going to keep it the same format, which has been very successful, or if we're going to change it up a little bit. There's some exciting things happening at the clinic in Port Hawkesbury that we might be able to work into it as far as the expansion of the clinic that's happening there. And so we haven't really made any final decisions on what this year's Business of Medicine Retreat is going to look like, but I do know that it's going to go ahead. We have the funding for it. We have a lot of people looking forward to it, and I am probably looking forward to it the most. The Physicians Welcome Reception, which was a part of the Business of Medicine course, is probably one of my favorite aspects of it, because all of the doctors get to come and they get to relax and they get to socialize with each other, and all of them, Dr. Pluta especially, loves to come and socialize and not have to worry about somebody asking for a prescription at the grocery store or anything like that. They get to relax and they get to speak to colleagues that they don't know ordinarily outside of office hours. So that's always going to be a popular event, I think, year to year. We took them around the trails, we took them driving. I wish that we had more time with them. Unfortunately, we don't. They are on extremely, extremely tight schedules, which is why we have to make the most of every single minute that they're here. But I do plan on meeting with some members of our committee to see how we can maybe change it up a little bit this year and make even more of the time that we have. The promotional videos, I'm assuming that a lot of people here have seen the promotional videos. We have two of them that were completed, one starring Dr. Hansball, and I say starring because he really did star in the video. He took it very seriously, and he's very, very pleased with it, as is his wife and his whole family and the entire Straight Richmond medical community. We also had one that featured more of the allied health, so the labs and the nursing homes, and with an appearance by Amanda. Thankfully, she was able to come and and talk about exactly what our organization did. We've had a lot of support of these videos from colleagues of Dr. Hansball's, especially in the physician community. Doctors Nova Scotia has been extremely, extremely supportive. They have been sharing this video far and wide. They've been showing it at the welcome committee that they have every 3 months for the different physicians who are entering Nova Scotia, and they are extremely supportive of all of the work that we do. So I thank them for that, because they really know how to kind of spread a community's message far and wide, and not just facilities or not just Nova Scotia Health, but they're very interested in making sure that the physicians that are coming here are comfortable, and they thought that this was a great project, as did we. Society of Rural Physicians of Canada Rural and Remote Conference in Niagara Falls. I attended last April. It was a very, very busy 3 days. There were about 1,500 healthcare professionals who were there. We had Nova Scotia Row, it was called. All of the different communities in Nova Scotia were in one corridor. Everybody had Nova Scotia tartan, and it was by far the most popular area of the convention. Everybody, as usual, has a story about Cape Breton. Everybody has a connection to Cape Breton, and everybody wants to tell me how they're related to somebody from Cape Breton. So there's never any shortage of conversations happening, and if we've learned anything, it's that conversations are probably one of the most important recruitment tools that you can have. So yes, huge contingent of Nova Scotia representatives were there, but I still think that we won. Also did a job fair at Cape Breton University with probably the most eager group of medical students. No, I shouldn't say medical students. With students who were in the healthcare profession. They were ravenous for jobs in this area. It's too early to tell whether or not any of these are going to pan out, because we don't know what the status of any of their education is at this point. I have been in contact with a few of them, but it's really good exposure for this area, and we did have a busload come down for a talk at the Civic Center. I went in to speak to them again, left them with some of our prospectus, and they were left with really good impressions of the area. So I was pretty happy with that, and we'll see where those contacts kind of develop, because I know that there were a lot of people who were interested in this area specifically. This was another kind of chat that I did down in Sydney as a result of that job fair. I was asked to go to speak with the Chinese Students and Scholars Association. I believe that there are 13 of the people in that association who are applying to the new Cape Breton Medical School. So there's a lot of good connections to be made within that group, and I had a really nice afternoon with them, and they gave me some nice fresh baking that their student association did, and it was good. Office of Healthcare Professionals Recruitment Conference I went to in Halifax, and that was another really big success. The Office of Healthcare Professionals Recruitment has grown tremendously since I went there the first time. I was asked to do a panel discussion on welcoming communities, and we spoke about the difference between welcoming communities and friendly communities, because there is a striking difference when it comes to recruitment efforts, and a lot of the community navigators have tried to express to the government on many different occasions that there's a huge difference between saying that you are a friendly community and actually being a welcoming community and making sure that you're kind of putting your money where your mouth is. So they are very receptive to all of the advice and all of the suggestions that we're giving to them, and they seem to be making some excellent progress. They are doing a lot of work with equity and inclusion, and those projects are being worked on this year. It was in Truro just a few weeks ago, and again, a lot of really nice presentations, some speakers, and their leadership isn't changing, which I think is a good thing. They had quite a bit of changeover at the beginning, but since they've become established, they've had pretty constant leadership, because these are the people who are truly interested in making progress within the recruitment sphere, and they're really doing a good job of finding out from the communities what's important and what's making the physicians leave and what's making the physicians stay. The Dalhousie Family Medicine Retreat and Job Fair was in Digby last fall. It's in Halifax this year. That's probably the most important recruitment event for me for the year, because that's where all of the Dalhousie medical students, they're obligated as far as their course is concerned, to meet with all of the different communities. So you set up a booth and you explain to them why they should move to your area. And I make fudge, and I have lots of nice conversations, and they've had really great experiences all over Cape Breton. And luckily, right now, I don't want to say luckily, we're the only organization in Cape Breton right now that is an established organization. So they do not have, they don't have any kind of recruitment organization in Sydney. They don't have one in Inverness. They don't have one in Cheticamp. They don't have one anywhere else in Cape Breton. So when people say that they're going over to the Cape Breton table, they're talking about me. And although we are working with the Cape Breton Region Municipality on the different island-wide activities, I do feel like it is advantageous for us to have somebody who is actually there and a face that people will recognize and that they will see regularly, so that they know that they can relate the places that they see to the person that they can talk to about possibly working there. So we're hoping that those relationships continue with all of the Dalhousie students, because those are the people that we want to graduate and to move here. The big news from 2023, I think, is the 2 new physicians who started in Port Hawkesbury. So Dr. Angay and Dr. Wagley, both at the Port Hawkesbury Collaborative. They are doing beautifully in the community. They have settled in. The kids love it. The wives are happy. There's job offers for spousal employment. Both of them have applied to Dalhousie University to take students, which I think is a really good sign. They're doing really well in terms of their outside work, not just their family practice, but also working with the nursing homes, with mental health and addictions. So they're really kind of weaving their way into the medical community, aside from just their regular family practice, which I think is a good sign. Dr. Wagley is my doctor. He is absolutely spot on. I've heard such great reviews from everybody in the community about how friendly they are, and I think that they're both keepers. I think that we'll have them here for a while. So aside from the projects that we received the funding to accomplish, this is what I've kind of gone back to this year. So Cape Breton South is working toward one singular goal, is how the group formed. This is exactly what the goal was so that Cape Breton South community members can access the health services they need. And as much as that often has to do with bringing in new doctors, a lot of times there's a lot of work to be done that doesn't necessarily include bringing back new doctors. And so we've been working on other projects with Nova Scotia Health to make sure that we are doing the work to get people from Cape Breton South to the services that they need, in terms of making sure that they know what the pharmacies do, the food banks that are available to them, the mental health supports that are available through the province, and all this other sort of work that, like I said, doesn't necessarily have to do with recruitment of new healthcare professionals, but making sure that we're making good use of the resources that we have in the community already. Amanda is pointing to her watch, and I know that I can talk forever. So I'm going to leave you with the presentation, which I know is printed out for you. It gives a little bit of information about the evolution of the community fund, which has been our biggest source of funding over the past 2 years. We were approved for just south of $45,000 for this year for our project funding as well, which is a lot more than I expected. And we're hoping that that fund continues, because that's a really big part of the work that we're able to do. I am asking to once again have the council's support for operational funding as we continue to kind of plow forward with the work that we're doing. It's extremely busy, but it's extremely rewarding, and I think that we're making a lot of good progress in terms of putting ourselves on the map as a place that people really like to work, and that is recognized by the province as a great place for their healthcare professionals to land. So I will open it up to questions, and hope that I didn't take too much time.
Thanks, Gina. No, that was great. It's there's a lot going on, no question. So thanks for your work on that. You're killing it. Probably poor choice of words for this particular field, but anyway. I'm going to ask councillors, do you have any questions for Gina? Okay.
Yeah, just one, Madam Warren. So yeah, thanks, Gina, for the update. This is great stuff. So thank you, and great work on your behalf and the group's behalf. So you had talked about public education campaigns, and you talked about student recruitment from Dalhousie and all that stuff. Just wondering, do you guys do anything when it comes to like school visits, like high school visits, to see if there's any young potential?
And as we haven't, but we are this year. So we have a full catalog this year coming out with profiles of all of the different healthcare professionals, all of the different healthcare professions that are possible. A lot of the students are saying that they were not aware that that a lab tech was even a thing, and an x-ray tech. So we put together with Nova Scotia Health all of the different job profiles specific to this area and beyond, and that's coming out in a catalog that we are distributing to Alan Lafford, Sarek, Richmond Academy, and Ekobopor. And that will be out in September.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Councillor Deputy Warden. Any further questions for Gina? No, I just seeing that lovely number on the screen, so it is updated from what was in the original presentation package, and yeah.
That was my mistake.
Yeah, no, all good. It's all good. It was a lot of information, and really appreciate the update, and certainly extend our thanks to the folks at the Kingston Health Center for supporting this work, and thank you to Juanita Mumbercat. I just want to, acknowledge is in the room and is the chair for Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health, so appreciate your leadership on that, Juanita. Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Sure, yeah. You got to press your button.
I'm sorry, I thought it was pressed. I was coming here tonight to support Gina because she is, the person that makes all this happen. And also to thank you folks for your support. And also to say that soon, I think might even be this Thursday, right?
Yes.
We're getting back together as a committee and we're looking at what we've accomplished in the recent years, which is a lot. Looking at our terms of reference and trying to see what next is in our path. So we're evolving as we develop these programs and these networks and these connections and Gina. I think it's been great and I think we have a good future.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, ladies. So much appreciated. All right, that idea of weaving some continuous improvement in is always a good idea. So, all right, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is presentation from Lisa McHugh with Renest Furniture Society. So over to you, Lisa. Danielle's going to help you get set up there, and yeah. And so just a reminder, when you're ready to speak, you'll press the red button, and and probably if I don't know if you can get that mic any closer to you, I'm always worried about making sure the sound works okay for the folks watching at home. So over to you. Yes, let me fix that.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here this evening. I know a lot of people know about Renest. I recognize some furniture donators, and anybody that's on Facebook with any of our board members likely sees a lot of asks. Renest is all not-for-profit volunteers, our board of directors, but we'll start with the why. Go back to that. Why? So, why Renest? Prior to this actually making it a committee, Chloe Fox Chetwin and I both worked at Leaside Transition House. And part of that was as people were ready to leave, we could get them housing. That became evidently difficult, so a housing support worker position was created. But prior to that, it was a lot of, we can get them a place, but there was no furniture in it. So when you're starting over, you literally have nothing. So it was a lot of, any of my local friends on Facebook would see, hey, I'm looking for, anybody that's from away was probably wondering why I'm always asking for furniture. But then it became so much that we were when we both left Leaside, so she left first and then I left, and we were housing support workers. It started with one client that was 76 years old. She had lost her house and was living in her car for a couple weeks, not too bad. got her a place to live, but she had no furniture. And the thought of this 76-year-old woman sleeping on the floor just broke my heart. So I just couldn't go home. So I was like, I got to go find a bed. So I stayed and I messaged everybody, hotels, anybody. I finally got a mattress to start. Got that mattress to her, and that was the impetus that started it. I can't have 76-year-old women sleeping on the floor. Bad enough they're sleeping in their vehicle, but now, yeah. So it became a lot with the prices of housing going up. Anybody can find themselves in this position where you need to leave everything you own behind, whether it's a fire, intimate partner violence situation. You don't know what the reason, I don't need to know. If somebody needs something, I'm going to get it for them. COVID highlighted the need for a lot of things. Bothers me to no end that you can't buy a crib in Port Hawkesbury. Used to be able to get one at Walmart, but they don't carry them anymore. So you have to have a credit card to have it delivered. So Renest, it got very busy. So we were both in housing and getting clients housed and needing furniture. And then other people were tapping in, like Department of Community Services, the newcomers, the Y-Reach organization. Just people need something, need a coffee table, need something. So I was gathering as fast as I could. And then there was a woman that lived in Ontario, bought a house during COVID, had it furnished, and her husband died. So she needed this 5-bedroom house emptied. And then I had no storage for it, but it all had to be done. Like I had 2 days to get all this furniture rehomed. And that's when I was like, okay, we need a place to store it, because I can't physically move 5 bedrooms by myself with Chloe and my SUV. So we got the Norvon rents. I think, can you guys see that picture of the? Not yet. There we go. CCAN at the Norvon parking lot, and it's $300 a month. So we started with that, and at the same time, we decided we needed other people to help. So we got a not-for-profit registration at the Joint Stocks, Registry of Joint Stocks. We started meeting on a regular basis with the board. And we had a business plan that we charged a minimal amount, like, $10 for a mattress, $10 for a box spring. Most of it's donated furniture, so all of it's donated furniture. Most of the time, people will be able to pay it. I've seen it where people just don't have that. And it's like, you know what? I can't charge, and I don't. And it's probably, I'm never going to be a business person because I just give it away. But we do have a rent to pay of $300 a month, so we're asking for donations because people are finding it really hard. Like the average market rent for Port Hawkesbury, even Richmond County, it's like minimum $1,300 for a 1-bedroom, $1,900, $2,300. Those are the prices that are going now. And that's not including any utilities. So the cost of heating gone up. These are people that I couldn't afford it, and I have a good job. My husband has a good job. No way I could afford to pay the rents that are being requested now. So furniture, we have lots of furniture, and then we have some other little projects. So worth the weight consignment. Takes donations because we have the CCAN, but we don't have room for bedding and stuff that we want. And our office really doesn't appreciate us bringing in bags and bags and bags, which I do sometimes, but only until I can get to worth the weight to drop it off. So they sell it and then give us credit for it. And then we have coupons that we can just issue people, because I don't know whatever bed size they get, they can go get their own bedding. Or we had somebody come in, they were new to Canada and didn't have a winter coat, and it was in that really cold snap that we had. So I was able to just go get clothes, go get whatever you need. And then I also work with the Girl Guides because, not enough hats on my head. So the Rangers are the oldest level of girls, and so during COVID, they still needed their service hours, community service hours. So we started the kitchen project. So we gather up all the kitchen donations, like pots and pans, cutlery, mugs, and we divide it all up. And when I was working at Leaside, I was able to use their parking lot. But now that I don't work there anymore, I've enlisted one of my friends and board members, Dana, and we used her garage and we took it over. So we spread everything out and then put it all into banana boxes with everything for a family of 4 ready to go. And that's been accessed by new immigrants. When Port Hawkesbury had sponsored some Ukrainian families, they accessed it. And then there was somebody down this way that had a fire and was able to get enough to get them going. We are not for profit. We use our lunch time instead of eating or taking a walk. We go and get furniture and beds. And this year we connected with Lance Hawley and the co-op students at Sarek who are helping us move the furniture because my back's not as young as I feel most days, but that's been phenomenal. At the time when this was made, we've delivered 83 perfectly good beds, but we're well over the 120 mark now. And we do try and just stick with beds and dressers, but quite often people have good couches that we'll get. And we try not to take those unless we know we have a family that's going to need it, because they do take up a lot of space. Yeah. So does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Lisa? Thank you, Lisa. That was a great overview. I think important too for you to let council know that, this is going on, because then through us, the viewers at home and in the community will get to see it as well.
The biggest need that we have really too, on top of money, is a connection to trucks. Like I can fit a twin mattress in my back seat, because if it folds up, if it's raining, I have to wait till not raining day, because otherwise it sticks out the back of my trunk. So if we had people with trucks, that would be amazing. I've got a family that was homeless, and I've got them housed. The little guy should be in a bed. He's big enough to be in a bed, but he's still on a crib mattress because I don't have a way of getting that bed to him. Mom hasn't had a bed in a long time, but we have one. I just need to get it from Port Hawkesbury to St. Peter's. It's that sort of thing. That's just a lot to coordinate on your lunch break.
I know a guy. But no,
I heard your name.
but in all reality, I think many hands make light work, and if you could kind of assemble a bit of a list of, of people who could be on call to help with that type of thing, So I guess the call out is for folks who may have, maybe not every time, but sometimes be able to help with a delivery. Maybe they could reach out to you. And how do they reach you? Is that on your slide here?
The best way to reach is the email.
Yeah.
The
3chicksrenest@gmail.com. Yeah.
Somebody please ask me why we came up with that name.
Okay, well, you got me. Why the name? Press the button. Press the button.
3 chicks because there was 3 of us that just didn't want to tweet about it. We want it to be doing something. No tweeting. We want to do stuff. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Lisa. Does anybody have any questions for Lisa? Mike? Yeah?
Not so much questions as, again, maybe just reach out. Is that something we can put on our, have staff put on like our webpage or something? Just, just to put it, it's great work that you're doing, and I applaud you, and because it's
The need's there, and it's not just.
you're right, the need is there straight across the whole county. So again, my number's on all over the place. So reach out, but again, if we can put it on our half staff, add it to it, just for delivery, for materials, for whatever, then I think it'll make a big difference.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Lisa. Okay. All right. Well, two really great presentations about things that are going on in our communities that are much needed. That was amazing. So, all right. So the next item on our agenda is new business, and the first item under that is No Mow May. And I'm going to ask our CAO Troy to give us a little update on where we are with No Mow May this year.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We were at I think it was our staff meeting a couple weeks ago, and it hadn't come up about No Mow May. We know that we have recognized it in the past, but it's always been a motion. It's not a standing thing. But in our consideration of this as well is in a good growing season, the grass can really get out of hand real quick as well. So we're just looking for council's possible consideration to allow us to let it go as long as we can, because once it does get too long, then it becomes a danger for our guys out there driving over things that they can't see. So we're lucky. We live in a pretty rural area where there are lots of flowers and lawns that don't see a lawnmower. So there's lots of food around for the insects that are out at this time of year, but I still think we'd like to do as much as we can, as long as we can, to help the bees. I think everybody hopefully is seeing the little rebound that we are seeing in our bee populations, and we certainly don't want that to go the other way. But we would like council's indulgence that, you know, when the guys are out there and they see that things do need to be mowed within the month of May, we got the green light to go ahead and do it.
Thanks, Troy. Does anybody have any comments on that? I think Troy's bringing up a safety concern, and certainly we want to address that, but also kind of do our best by the bees as well, you know. So, yeah. So, any thoughts, councillors? Are we okay to maybe leave that as a standing practice, but then you know, just using the judgment of staff in terms of determining the safety issues or length of the grass before we get to it? Are we okay with that? Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks, Troy. I still do think, though, if we should maybe get a couple signs, because I do think people wonder, why are we not mowing the grass? Do we?
We do have the signs.
Oh, do we have some? I didn't see them last year. There you go. Okay. Perfect. Okay. That's great. Thank you. So next item on the agenda then is a review of the Warden's Council report. So I've provided that for your information and just would ask if there's any questions on it. I guess the only, comment that I would make is just wanting to wish our team who is attending World Hydrogen right now in Rotterdam, Martin Thompson, and I know some folks, Tyler from the Cape Breton Partnership are there as well, representing Cape Breton Island and the Strait area at that conference with I'm sure both of the hydrogen proponents in our region. So important for us to be seen to be there. So best of luck to them and safe travels. Okay. Next item on the agenda then is over to Councillor Michael Digdon for, I think you wanted to discuss roaming farm animals. Councillor, so over to you and whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Warden. So I reached, well, I guess maybe we can just check. I believe the only policy we have in place is the dog catcher or dog policy. We don't have one, but it's been brought to my attention several times over definitely the last couple of years about, you know, roaming farm animals and roaming animals in general. And again, it's okay, I guess, for the owner of the animals, but you have to respect the property next door. And, you know, one of the complaints I got was, you know, a lady with a brand new vehicle and that upkeeps her property impeccable, just had some chickens, I guess, just free-range birds or free-range chickens, and just making a mess all over her property. So I think it's something that council really has to look at, and I'm not sure what direction we go in, but maybe we can add it to our policy and bylaws, or we can. It's something that has to be addressed, I think, sooner than later.
Okay, I know there's, you know, certainly from the local food movement, there's an opposite side to that, but something worth investigating perhaps. So are you asking maybe to refer to bylaw and policy at this point?
Yeah, I think we got to refer to bylaw and policy. We may even have to, I guess, include John Bain in the conversation with, you know, where you are permitted to set up a farm and where you are, you know, what zones, because again, it just seems like they're kind of popping up everywhere, and I don't think that, downtown Aryshed is or Lord Ways or St. Peter's may be the appropriate spot to put it up. And again, we may have to check our zoning bylaws or zoning laws at the same time, but definitely please add it to our.
Councillors, are you in agreement with referring that issue to bylaw and policy? Okay, so I'm seeing consensus. Maybe I'll just ask for a motion, though, so it hits our action item list.
Yeah, so I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, the motion's been made. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Sampson. Any further discussion on that item? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Over to you now, Councillor Melanie Sampson, for discussion on the streetlight policy.
Thanks. So included in the package was a letter from a resident of District 3 residents who are owners of a private subdivision. And their concern is regarding the ability to access streetlights. So as per our streetlight policy, we are, as councillors, permitted to request 5 streetlights per year in our district to illuminate the street, obviously. But in Section 5 of that, it specifically talks about private roads and the limitations that relate to that. And the limitations for accessing a streetlight on a private road is that it has to have a minimum of 4 permanent residences. So the subdivision in question does not have 4 permanent residences. I have spoken to the Director of Public Works about that. There are 4 residences there, but they are not permanent. And I guess I just wondered if there was an appetite amongst the council members to perhaps refer this to bylaw policy, because it, for example, in the case of this private subdivision, there are municipal services there as well. So there is perhaps some reasoning that we need to think about in terms of whether or not we should be illuminating that road, because we do have services there. So again, like recognizing that the policy is in place, but wondering if there's an appetite among councillors to refer it to bylaw policy for potential amendments, particularly to that section. I mean, and I guess if we were looking at it, we could also look at whether or not 5 is the right number as well per district, given we've had a fair bit of construction. We heard recently from the EDPC in terms of the number of building permits that have been issued. So I don't know if 5 is the right number anymore either. I know I've not gone over my max, but I don't know if others have found themselves at that wall or not.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Sampson. I don't think I have either, but I find it comes in batches. Like there'll be a bunch and then it goes quiet for a while. But so, councillors, would you be in favour of referring this to bylaw policy?
The only concern I'd have is I'm thinking of all the private roads out there now, because I know I've dealt with somebody who had one installed on a private road, and they just had to pay for it themselves. They were more than happy to in that case. They just wanted the light, so they pay a monthly or bi-monthly fee to have it. Yeah, like you can get it. It's just it's the same basically as if you were getting one put in your driveway. If it's a private road, it doesn't come from our 5 that were allotted, and it's not paid for by the county. It's paid for by the resident. So my concern would be how many might be out there on private roads, and do we know that? So if we change the policy, then possibly it's not fair to all those people who are already paying now. We may end up incurring quite a large expense we're not aware of.
That would be a tough one to I guess, wrap your head around without knowing. But I think you're suggesting only where there are municipal services, potentially. Is that correct?
I mean, I'm saying it as a starting point. Again, that's in my mind when it was requested of me, and then I chatted with the Director of Public Works. To me, the policy was quite straightforward, and basically that was what I had passed on to. In fact, it was a resident on that road, not the owner of the subdivision originally, that contacted me, and basically what I said is, this is what the policy is, and to your point, Councillor Sampson, it could become a bit of a snowball, right? So I was okay at the time, but I hadn't. And at the time, I knew that there was services there, but I don't know that I fully thought that all the way through to kind of let it die there. And then, so when it was brought up to me again last month, I thought, it would be perhaps worth a conversation at council. I understand what you're saying, Councillor Sampson, in terms of, a deluge, let's say, of people coming forward. But again, we have a number that we can do per year in our district, and so we could choose to convert a streetlight from a private pay to a county pay as one of our allotment, if that's what we chose. Again, those would be parts of the discussion we could have here at bylaw policy. So I don't know all the answers. I just know that as I started to think about it, and that I just thought it was perhaps worth a conversation at bylaw policy meeting.
Yeah, not a conversation we'll be able to finish here this evening, so needs a little bit more research to your, to address points like the ones Councillor Brent Sampson made. So would councillors be okay with referring that to bylaw and policy for more discussion and maybe a little bit of research on potential implications? Yeah, okay. Could I have a motion to that effect?
So I will make a motion to refer the streetlight policy to the bylaw policy committee.
Thank you, Councillor Sampson. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I don't think I'd feel comfortable, and I know we're only talking about a discussion at this time. I'm thinking there's could be an awful lot of them out there, and it wouldn't, in my opinion, it wouldn't be fair to be some people on private roads paying for them and some not. So, yeah.
Thanks, Councillor. Any further discussion?
I think, again, it'll go to bylaw and policy, but the only thing I would add is that it might be just as simple as taking out the permanent residents. It asks for a minimum of 4, and there is 4 residents on that location. All 4, regardless whether you live in the house or not, are paying taxes to the municipality. So I guess really the only difference is somebody living inside the house or not living inside the house. The taxes are getting paid regardless, so I think I'd look at it from that standpoint.
Actually, that's a perfectly reasonable point. I'd be more than willing to bring up the discussion on something like that, yeah.
Okay, thanks, councillors. So any further discussion on that item? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, next item on the agenda is over to you, Councillor Brent Sampson, regarding the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities Conference, which I've tried so hard to get to and just couldn't.
So, yeah, I was lucky enough to be able to attend the NSFM Spring Conference last week in Bedeck. It was very informative, although it was cut short. There was a power outage in Bedeck Friday morning, so everything Friday ended up being cancelled. However, the keynote speaker Thursday morning was actually very, very good, was Olympian Brad Gushu, and really, really interesting to listen to him for an hour or so. There was the Housing Minister, John Lohr, was there as well and spoke on a number of things. There was a session I attended on innovative tourism strategies, which that was, they talked a lot. One gentleman was speaking about these super yachts and so on, and attracting them throughout, different parts of Nova Scotia, and that it was quite fascinating. As well, a woman from the Tourism Industry Association, Nova Scotia. However, one thing that I did want to bring up was there was a community climate capacity program, coastal protection. That's a mouthful, I know. Anyhow, Honourable Timothy Hallman was leading that discussion. However, there's a couple of staff members there. His project coordinator, Megan McMorris, from the Department of Environment and Climate Change. Myself, along with the warden from Inverness County, made connections with her after the presentation and gave her contact information to try and reach out, because based on this new coastal protection plan that they're moving forward with, a lot of the discussion surrounded, the minister mentioned there may be a lot of people not necessarily in favor of this, are not big fans of this plan in particular, but please give it time, give it a chance, and we'll try and work through this as best we can. Now, this Megan McMorris would be willing to come to council to present to us and try and give us a lot more information about how they want this to roll out in the future, and probably answer a lot of our questions, hopefully anyway. So the reason we connected with her, with the warden of Inverness County, figuring it was easier to catch her to come down here if she could possibly book two visits in one day. So anyway, she'll likely be in contact, and hopefully before the end of June we may be able to see her here. That's all I
Thanks so much, Councillor. I've actually connected with Megan as well because of the Bidaba Committee. We had kind of referred some coastal protection discussion from SEPI over to Bidaba, and the same idea. We were hoping that she could do a visit here and catch us and Bidaba at the same time. The timing, I think, didn't work out, but we were able to connect with her online anyway, so those conversations. So we started some conversation with her, but this is like a bit of a different tack as well. So I think that's a great connection, and she certainly has seemed like she's really interested to come and talk to us. I think that would be fantastic for all of council, but also for members of the public to be able to hear that as well.
Yeah, and I think there's a lack of clarity for a lot of people right now, and it's hard for us to answer those questions. So I think it'd be great for everybody involved if she was able to come and speak to us and answer some questions.
Thanks so much for that update, Councillor. Does anybody have any questions for Councillor Sampson on the NSFM conference? I was in Glendale when I got the notice Friday morning that the second day was canceled, so turn around and go home. Anyway, the best laid plans, so. All right, thanks a lot, Councillor. The next item on the agenda is our community acknowledgements, and we always begin our community acknowledgements with, I'm sorry, I missed the CAO report. Everybody's looking at me like you missed something, Amanda. That's because I missed something. Oh, no. I've got this up on my screen. I can't wait to talk about our Volunteer of the Month. So, next item on the agenda is CAO, the Administration Operations Report. Any questions on that item? Okay.
Awesome.
No questions?
As you were, I guess.
All right, as I was saying, we'll talk now about our community acknowledgements. So our April Volunteer of the Month is Doreen Boudreau, and Doreen is a resident of District 2, I believe. Doreen is a vital volunteer to her community. Her dedication and reliability over the past 30 years have made a significant impact to many organizations, including the CWL. Coordinating Eucharistic ministers and readers for 15 years is no small feat. That's a lot of dedication of years. And organizing parish activities and fundraisers demonstrates her commitment to enhancing community life. Her positive attitude and ability to see the good in everyone contribute to the friendly atmosphere within the parish and beyond. Doreen's contributions have touched the lives of many, enriching not only the community members but also the affiliated organizations that she's worked with. It's people like Doreen who truly make a difference in the world around them, and in the words of many, she is small but mighty. So let's please, join everyone in thanking Doreen for her hard work, her dedication and commitment to community. Volunteers certainly make the wheels of Richmond County turn. So thank you, Doreen, and I hope you have a great month of May and well-deserved recognition for your work. Does anybody have any comments they wanted to add on that?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Warren. So yeah, Doreen is in my district and lives not too far from me. And when she's baking and her windows are open, I can probably smell what she's baking. So it's great. So no, I just wanted to congratulate Doreen and acknowledge all her commitment and efforts to our community. So, and we do have a little care package for her. So I will be dropping in to visit her and drop that off for her. So
That's great. Thank you, Deputy Warden. Is there any further discussion on that item or any other community acknowledgements folks would like to make?
Yep. I have one more. I'd like to acknowledge and congratulate Eva Sampson from Pereira. Eva was awarded the King Charles Coronation Medal in recognition of significant service to the province, to our country, and to our community. So just wanted to acknowledge and congratulate Eva. So, félicitations Eva, puis merci beaucoup pour tout ton travail dans notre communauté.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. That's quite a recognition. That's awesome. All right. Any further community acknowledgements?
Yeah, Madam Warden, it might be on the list, but I think, and we may have covered it last time, again, just a shout out to everybody who spent the last 2 weeks in the ditches, putting all the garbage on the side of the road. Thank you very much for all the hard work and dedication. It was, I'm sure it overwhelmed the Public Works Department, but again, they made a great job.
Yeah, no, good point. There's been a whole series of community cleanups. It started, I think, around Earth Day, and it's still going on, so. Okay, if there's no further discussion on the community acknowledgements item, I'll move on to correspondence, action required. And the first item on our list is correspondence from Glenda Kipp, Manager of Home and Community Care, regarding the request to participate in VON Week. And I think this is something we've done in the past, as I'm recalling. VON Week is coming up, I guess it's this week, or no, it's next week, the 19th to the 25th, and the theme is Connected with Purpose. So they're looking for us to, participate in recognizing VON Week by proclaiming the opening of VON Week, by raising the VON flag at the municipal office in Richmond County here, as well as lighting up a municipal landmark and sharing on our social media. So would like to invite comments from councillors or staff about our ability to swing any or all of those 4 requests for action from Ms. Kipp. Okay. Well, I'm going to, let's go through the week. So councillors would be supportive of proclaiming the opening of VON Week, if that's okay. We'll look for a motion to that effect then for the proclamation.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Brent Sampson. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, so all those in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed? That motion is carried. And generally, I read that for the record at this stage of the game. So the motion that was presented and approved as presented states, whereas the Victorian Order of Nurses for Canada is a charitable community-based healthcare organization that has addressed community health and social needs for over 125 years, whereas VON Cape Breton nurses, home support workers, community service coordinators, and many other staff and volunteers have been caring for the lives and well-being of residents of CBRM in Richmond County since 1900, and in Richmond in 2019. And VON's nursing, health promotion, and support services make a contribution to the healthcare system in Nova Scotia. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Amanda Mumbercat, Warden of the Municipality of the County of Richmond, on behalf of Council, hereby proclaim May 19th to 25th, 2024 as VON Week here in Richmond County. So would definitely encourage all residents in Richmond County to support the VON whenever you can. Share some positive message, consider a financial contribution to their charitable programs, etc. Okay, so the next item on their request then was, I think, the flag raising. And I was not recalling, Troy, do we have a flag or did they supply one last time?
I believe we have one.
We have
still.
one, okay.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
We just have to check always to make sure that they're still okay, because the wind does tend to
Yes.
destroy them from year to year.
Right on, okay. So I think we would need a motion on this one as well, because the VON is not, the VON flag raising wouldn't be within our policy. So would councillors, any councillor care to make a motion to raise the VON flag?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Warden. And a seconder, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Sampson. So it's been moved by the Deputy Warden and seconded by Councillor Melanie Sampson to raise the VON flag for the May 19th to 25th week of recognition, I guess. Any further discussion on that item? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. So the next item is to light up a municipal landmark in blue in celebration of VON Week, and I think I would like to get some advice from our CAO on that.
I want to say that we did it last year. We have the floodlights for the front of this building, and I'm pretty sure we did last year, and we could probably do that again this year.
Okay. Great. That sounds fantastic. Any objections to staff taking that action? I don't think we need a motion on that one. It's,
We can take that away.
we can take that away. All right. And also, same with sharing our social media, sharing their social media posts on our.
We are fine with that.
Yeah, okay. Are councillors supportive of those actions from staff? Okay, great. So we have consensus on those last two items as well. So I will leave it to you to return to Ms. Kipp to let her know that that her request has been approved. So
We'll circulate the date once we get the flag raising.
great. Okay. Thanks, everyone. So the next item then on the agenda is a memo from Jim Davis, the interim CFO, regarding a grant request from River Roots Garden Society. And so Jim has reviewed the application and they have requested funds in the amount of $9,200 for the Type 4 Regional Health and General Fund. So the application outlines their intent to, to support the objectives that they have, which is really all about increasing access to fresh foods, affordable produce, expanding knowledge, providing some education. They have a community kitchen from which they teach in as well. If approved, the funds would be used for 12 workshops on topics from planting seeds to cooking low-cost nutritious meals. So they're looking at support for this particular project, staff time of 6 hours, looking at some, hiring some workshop leaders and some miscellaneous items that would include marketing, some promotions, that type of thing. So they've got some additional details that they've provided, but would like to open this for discussion from councillors. It's the first grant request that we've had. We don't have an approved grant, or no, it's not the first grant request that we've had. So, but it's before we have a fully approved budget with a grant request item or line. So, would like to kind of open for discussion from councillors on this one. Any comments? It's a chunk of money early in the year for sure, and certainly I'd be willing to support it. To a certain amount. I wouldn't want to use my entire district fund on it because I know there will be many other projects to come. But in general, it sounds like an exciting project that they've got planned. So.
So quiet. I just feel like even though we did talk, just this evening about our funding, and, I think presumably we're going to be in a similar position without seeing the full budget. I'm no more comfortable today than I was last time we got a grant request. I just feel like if we could just push it along until we're farther in our budget process, I would be more comfortable with that.
Yeah, and do we have a sense of whether there was an urgency around the timing of this?
I did not hear one.
Okay.
Nope.
Yeah, and I don't.
Nobody came out and spelled it out to me that they were up against.
And I didn't see any mention of dates in their descriptions, right? So, maybe I missed that, but because there was an attachment, but.
Yeah, it's a well-done application.
Yeah.
I just don't see any dates of when they're starting it, so.
Okay. All right. Well, at this point, would councillors be okay with us pushing this till next month, I think, by which time we'll have our budget finalized? Okay. So maybe we could get back to Richmond River Roots and let them know that it's not a no, but that we just need a little more time on our budgeting process. So.
You got it.
Great. Thank you so much. Excuse me. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is correspondence from Aline and Michael Langdon. And I believe this might be related to the discussion we had earlier regarding roaming farm animals. Excuse me. Okay. So they have, they've outlined an issue that they're having and it indicated that they had been in touch with you, Councillor Digdon, expressing some disappointment, obviously, with the whole situation, and they seem to have some serious concerns. So I believe probably the action that we took tonight probably covers any action additionally that would be required by this, and just for the authors of the letter, that is the process typically of a municipal council, is that we make recommendations from our committee level on any kind of policy or bylaw, that would come back to council. So that action has been taken, and hopefully we'll be able to move the needle on that a little bit. So, Councillor Digdon, was there anything else you would want to add to take action wise, or that would not? Okay, we're good. Okay.
Madam Chair, if you wouldn't mind, just in the meantime, where we received the letter and correspondence in this meeting, even though we're adding it to our next bylaw and policy, we will reach out to these folks and respond to let them know of the steps that are being taken.
That would be great. Thank you, Troy. Much appreciated. Okay, the next item on the agenda is our pieces of correspondence for information only. There's a letter from Christine Blair, Mayor with the Municipality of Colchester, to Minister Lohr regarding the Service Exchange Agreement. There's a letter from Byron Rayfuse, who is the Deputy Minister for Municipal Affairs and Housing, regarding the CCBF as well as our municipal profile and financial condition indicators. I just would like to say hooray. It's wonderful to see that come back, and certainly the municipality is moving in the right direction. I'd like to see the green boxes. It's good. So, all right. And Troy, for members of the public who may want to view that at home, is that something we could put on our website somewhere? I think we normally do.
We most certainly can.
Yeah, okay, great.
Our fire service coordinator is coming to the presentation table now, and I'll hand it over to him. His memo's been included, so.
Great. Over to you, Steve.
So this is for the $5,000 for an installation of a dry hydrant in the River Bourgeois area that St. Peter's Volunteer Fire Department services in their response area. So the policy outlines the steps that need to happen for the funds. This has been a long-standing item that I don't see necessarily changing or going away anytime soon. But the fact is that fire department has gone above and beyond and has gone and installed the dry hydrant, and they should go be compensated according to the policy, even though the request is to, I don't know what the proper term is, amend, to allow it to go through.
Make the exception, yeah.
So ever since the policy was passed back in, I think it was 2021, no dry hydrants have actually gone through because of the cost of the dry hydrants. Fire departments felt that it wasn't gonna help anyways, especially the ones that are on the less accessible, I guess.
Right, yeah. Okay. So I think the recommendation then is to go ahead and, make the exception to cover the cost of the $5,000 towards the dry hydrant. Is that, it is a $5,000 request, to be clear, yeah. Okay, so councillors, open for discussion.
I'll make that motion.
Oh, you're prepared to make the motion
Well,
right off the bat?
maybe we should make the motion to have discussion, right?
For
Yeah.
sure. So the motion is to approve the exception for 5,000 to fund, I guess, it would just be to approve the funding of $5,000. So, all right, the motion would be to approve the funding of $5,000 for the St. Peter's Volunteer Fire Department for the installation of the dry hydrant. Could I have a seconder on that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Melanie Sampson. All right, so now, any further discussion on that item?
Yeah, so I'm part of the committee as well. So I guess it's kind of between a rock and a hard place, and I understand Steve's position bringing it forward, and I understand the fire department moving forward. The problem I have is that when we put bylaws and policies in place and then you don't follow them, it opens up a can of worms for everybody else to start doing the same thing, and then, so again, there is a reason we have a policy in place, and again, none of the policy breakdown to, unless I am misunderstood, not even anything was sent to Chris. So we didn't even do step one of, or St. Peter's Fire Department didn't even do step one of the policy, which was reach out to our Director of Public Works. So I'm not saying that I disagree with them getting reimbursed, but I think it's a slippery slope.
Thanks, Councillor Digdon. I guess maybe a question for you, Steve. Do we know if there are any other departments who have proceeded with dry hydrant installations, maybe outside the policy, that this may also impact? As you know, we often worry about setting a precedent. Just wondering about, like, has that happened in the recent past?
No, this is the first one, and there's not even a list of ones to come.
Okay. Great, thanks. So, okay, Councillor.
Yeah, so my thoughts on this, I understand I can understand Councillor Digdon's point on that. It wasn't followed exactly. Part of the problem I see is that I think we did try and come up with a solution, and it's probably at a point where we're seeing it's not functioning as we would have liked to. So I think as an aside from this, I'd be willing to put a motion forward to bring this back to policy and bylaw, because I think it's worth revisiting this in the future, just so we can try and make something that works better. However, even after discussion with the deputy CAO from Guys, it appeared that they don't fund these type of things anymore. They fund access to water instead, because they had a lot of issues over a period of time with their dry hydrants. So they decided to no longer fund them. So some kind of help with getting access to water one way or another, I think, is a good discussion. But I'd still be in favor of pursuing this, like awarding the $5,000, because there was at no point in time that they were hiding from the committee that they were moving forward, and just, I think, had trouble with figuring how the policy should work. And because there's time constraints on what time of year you can install these, felt that it was in their best interest to move ahead anyhow, and they had the funds to do so.
And we do have, thank you, Councillor, and we do have those funds budgeted in our system anyway. We had planned for these expenditures. And I know in having conversations with folks from the St. Peter's Fire Department in the past, my message has been clear. If the policy's not working, let's fix it. You know what I mean? So I would agree that if we're going to go ahead with an exception to the policy, that we should refer this back to bylaw and policy so that we can try to get it a little closer to right. It's always going to boil down to financial constraints, right? That is what it is, but we have to try to find a way to make it work together. We want our fire departments to have safe access to water, to your point, Councillor, yeah. So the motion is on the table, I guess, to approve the $5,000 contribution. Steve or Troy or councillors, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I do. For me, the bigger issue it was really no parts of the policy that were really followed, right? So starting from the very beginning, where the Fire Services Committee was to create and maintain a list of priorities, and those would be communicated, so that if we even had a list that said that dry hydrant was a priority of the Fire Services Committee collectively, I would have a greater comfort, right? So to your point, yes, obviously if it didn't work in this situation, we should revisit it to see, did it just not work in this situation, or is it just not working, right? I'm very torn, to be truthful. I'm still, to this very minute, not sure which way I'm going to vote in terms of it, because I am just concerned. We created this Fire Services Committee, and the purpose of that committee was to help us create policies that worked for the fire departments. And there was a big discussion about dry hydrants. We didn't know if 5,000 would be enough. We didn't know if the process would be right. And basically we were in a let's see how it works pattern, and then none of it happened. So I have some concerns about that. I do recognize the cost that they put into it, which is substantial, which does probably pull me more in we should approve it, we have the money budgeted and all of those pieces. But I am, to Councillor Digdon's point, very concerned about us creating a precedence on this. Again, if it's great that on the other side it's meeting all the requirements that we want, and it's providing safe access to water and all of those things, but what if it didn't? Then where would we be? So I'm just, like I said, I have large concerns in terms of what are we doing at the Fire Services Committee? Why are these lists not coming back to us?
Thank you, Councillor. I would maybe add I guess the fact that the policy hasn't been used and hasn't been taken up is a clear sign to me that it's not working, not just for one, but maybe for all. And I don't know if that's because of the discussions that are happening at the Fire Service Committee, or if it's because of the policy itself, or a combination of a whole pile of things. But I think if a policy is aligned with the needs of the people it's designed to serve, then you would think that it would be used more, I guess, is what my thought is on that. I'm wondering at this point, would it be helpful if we asked member staff to kind of, or maybe Steve, you have done this, I don't know, to check out the dry hydrant, that it meets, a certain certain, I don't want to say standards, but I mean, at least check functionality, meets a level of functionality that, and I'm sure that it does, but just to kind of help check off a bit of a quality assurance box, Councillor Melanie, you're making a point that what if it didn't, right? So maybe that could be a way that we could kind of build some confidence in making the approval. Councillor Brunson?
Yeah, and they did procure the services of an engineer when going about this. So I just want everyone to be clear. It wasn't, it wasn't a napkin design kind of thing that they came up with themselves.
Thank you for that point. I was, okay. Or Steve, did you, yeah, okay.
So there was a lot of conversations, both at the committee level, behind closed doors, all over the place. Dry hydrants has been on sort of the radar since 2019. As best I can find from the research, I'm sure it goes even further back. So the policy discussion came up numerous times. I believe, Councillor, you even brought forward having responsibilities put into the policy. And it the conversation kind of died, and then it resurfaced, and then it died, and then resurfaced. But then to get this done in the time frame, that's when they just went and did it. Following all the pieces of the policy, just not following the policy itself.
Okay, that's helpful, Steve. Thank you. Has anybody from the county seen the dry hydrant, like for the staff? Do you know? I have not. Okay, I wasn't sure. And I don't know. Would that provide you with any?
Just a quick drive-by. Nobody was around.
You haven't been out, and you haven't seen anything.
Haven't seen them drafting out of it.
No.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know, Councillor Melanie Sampson, would that be helpful to you, or is that,
No, I mean, I've seen that, there's 46 pages of documents that tell me that, it's pretty clear, to the councillor's point here, it's been done right. And again, that's what's pulling me in the yes direction for sure, is that I feel like, the thing that's been done wrong is that we haven't kind of made that list of priorities. We haven't touched base with the county first and all of those. But, to your point, it was discussed at the committee. I believe that to be true. Just again, that never flowed back to this table. And so that it's easy for councillors Digdon and Sampson, because they were, and yourself, you were at those committee meetings, so that this was started. And again, all of those things are pulling me in the yes direction, but I think we need to really visit what that looks like, because if we're not responding in a timely fashion, or we're not doing our own part of the process properly, it's hard to penalize a group of volunteers for doing all this work out of sequence, if you will. And again, I'm still on. And again, the money is budgeted. It's not like we have a list of competing priorities right now. I guess the only thing I would ask as members of the Fire Services Committee, has there been discussion at the table, now that we know that that's part of the table discussions, of other dry hydrants that are perhaps looking to access the funding like in the current year?
There's none on the books, and none have made mention of any that really are on the radar.
Okay, so the motion then, as it stands right now, is to approve the $5,000 investment for St. Peter's Fire Department to support their dry hydrant installation in River Bourgeois. I think there's going to be a secondary motion to maybe refer this back to bylaw and policy, but I would say also to Fire Services to get some feedback on what could be tweaked. I think that would be wise to hear from the committee on how we want to tweak the policy to make sure what we're bringing back to council aligns with what their needs, keeping in mind there are always going to be financial constraints. I wish we had the money to do all of them and cover all of the costs, but it's, it does become a cost factor. So it's just about having a plan going forward. So, Councillor?
I just want to make one more comment. Like in the package that we received, there was lots of documentation from different places, but I guess I just want to remind that the Fire Services Committee is the conduit to council. And so, a correspondence from a person or from somebody representing a group, like the Fire Services Committee needs to speak with that voice. That's why it was created, so that we could ensure that everybody, or that the majority of everybody on that committee, agrees with what the changes should be. So I think if we're looking at making changes to the policy, I'm super open to that, but I would want to hear from the committee as a whole in terms of what they think that should look like.
Yep, exactly. So I guess, before we jump into the motion to refer back to fire services and bylaw and policy, maybe we could complete this one. So councillors, final comments on this motion?
I think the only final comment I would make is that, they did go above and beyond installing this. They didn't, like Councillor Sampson said, they didn't just put a napkin setup in place. And I was only making the point so that we don't, fall down that path. Not that I didn't feel they should get the money, just that I don't want to see us go down a path of.
Yeah, no, certainly, we want to have policy that we can consistently support, not consistently make exceptions on, right? So that's for sure. Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? One last round.
Yeah, for me, Madam Warden, to agree with Councillor Melanie, if the whole project would be to the point where there's no access to water, and it would be all for naught, then yeah, of course that would be a problem for me. But they spend tens of thousands of dollars out of their own budget to make sure that this was done right, got an engineer to do it, and as you mentioned earlier, that $5,000 is allocated to a maximum of every dry hydrant that's out there, right? So for me, yeah, I think it's acceptable, right? So, yeah.
Thanks, Deputy Warden. One last time. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Nay. Okay, that motion is carried. Thank you very much, Steve, for your work on that. And I want to also say thank you to the St. Peter's Fire Department. I know the folks in River Bourgeois probably very much appreciate that there is safe access to water in the event of an emergency, and I'm sure the volunteer members appreciate that as well. So thank you. And I'll also, I guess at this time, check in with council to see if you would like to make a motion to refer this policy back to both fire services and bylaw and policy for a review.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Brent Sampson. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. I skipped the discussion part on. I skipped that part because I figured we had already had all of the discussion, but used up your time limit. Okay, so that's great. We've got a couple actions on that. So I think back over to, I'm not sure, are you, Troy or Steve, on the Provincial Department of Emergency Management?
This came out as an action item, and we asked Steve to look in on this new department. Both Steve and I sat in on the call with the minister. Would that be about a month ago now? Something like that, 3 weeks anyway. Yeah. And I'll let you take it from there.
So it's still in its infancy stage. The media release and call for people to sign up was just gauging people's interest. It wasn't actually the list that I'm signing up for this. It was just, are you interested in this? So moving forward from this point, eventually they're talking to stakeholders. They talk to the fire departments. They talk to ground search and rescue. Now the next phase, once they kind of figure stuff out, is to actually make calls to those people that did their initial registration to see if they're still interested. And then that's more of the discussion on what things that they bring to the table. So do they have, are they good with the chainsaw? Yeah. Yeah. So that's sort of the next phase. They're still working what it looks like for the other agencies. This isn't take away from the volunteer fire or ground search and rescue, but that was a major initial need to have that discussion with those groups. Okay. So moving forward for us, it doesn't really mean anything right now, but down the road it will, as it obviously develops.
Okay, thanks, Steve. It's early days, right? But good for us to be kind of connected on this ground level and understand what the steps are that have to occur. It's brand new things. So, councillors, do you have any questions for Steve on that? And I believe, Councillor Brent Sampson, there was supposed to be an update on NSFM, was there?
Yeah, the update was, because originally there was the housing minister, Sean Fraser, was supposed to be there. That got cancelled, and then there was to be an update Friday morning on it. And anyway, with the power outage, that got cancelled as well. So it was not meant to be.
All right, thanks. Well, we can stay in touch with, certainly with Minister Lohr, and through you, Steve, to the department. That would be really great. So really appreciate the update on that. Any other comments? Okay. So the next item then, so thank you, Steve. I think, yeah, that's fantastic. The next item on our agenda. Yeah, you can stay in the hot seat as long as you like. So the next item on the agenda, I believe, are the review of checks. So any comments or questions on the review of checks? Okay, hearing none, I'll move along. A review of the action items. I did send a request, Troy, over to you today when I saw that action number 291 on the Acting Collectively project, and I feel like I may have missed a message on it or something, so I'll have to go back and check, but between Troy and I, we'll get that figured out and make sure that it's wrapped up. So, any other questions on the action items? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which was the addition of the dry hydrants, but I think we've taken care of that. The reason I was putting that there was to make sure that we had room in the discussion for a motion to refer that policy back, so I'll consider that covered if councillors are okay with that.
Yeah, I think the only, just so I don't forget, and I'll put it out here tonight, is that I do, just so that we recognize, I believe the ask was at 5,000 per, and this comes to fire services, 5,000 per department. But what happens if only one department applies throughout the year? Are they available to get to 10?
Yeah, we can double check on that, sorry.
Sorry, even if it is per installation, if one department decides to go with 2 and no other department, are they eligible to get the?
We'll just make sure that that's covered, yeah. Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may, I'd really like it to go to fire services first before it comes to our bylaw and policy, because I'd really like the fire services feedback on the numbers that are in there. We're seeing what it costs to put these in, on the ownership question, on the maintenance question. All these things I would like discussed at the Fire Services Committee with consensus from the fire departments before it comes back here to folks that aren't involved with fire departments to make a decision on it.
Yeah.
So if we could get it right at the Fire Services Committee first, and then it come to bylaw and policy, I'd feel a lot better about working with what they give us.
Yeah, and I guess too, I think, Steve, you mentioned that policy was 2019. I don't have it right in front of me. 2022? Okay, but we had started kind of even discussing this as early as, 2019, 2020, prior to even our start here, right? So I think we need to keep in mind that costs have not gone down. And $5,000 now doesn't seem like, it seems like it's always going to cost a whole lot more than that. And I think at the time we were thinking, well, maybe that'd be 50 or, a certain percentage of the cost. It certainly hasn't worked out that way. And it will be different for each installation. I get that, right? So, yeah. Okay, great. That's great. So Steve has indicated that it's on the fire services agenda for June. So that's great. We'll hopefully have a quick turnaround on that. That's fantastic. Okay. Any other final comments on dry hydrants? Okay, so the next item on the agenda is our question period. It's a 15-minute question period. It's not restricted to items on the agenda. For folks watching at home, if you'd like to ask a question, you can call 902-226-9885. That's 902-226-9885. And also open to members of the gallery who might have questions. And we'll just leave that for a minute to let the delay go. Oh. Okay. All right, so we have a question from the gallery, so I'm just going to get you to have a seat. I'm going to, when you sit, you can press the red button on your microphone. We'll just get you to identify yourself and ask away.
My name's Paul Shears. I live in Ureville, Richmond County. I'm not here representing the fire department, so relax. But I do have a question, and my question is to the two councillors that sit on your fire services committee. Did you not attend our March meeting in 2023 where you were given a letter from that committee outlining the issues with your policy on dry hydrants.
Yeah, I believe it's in the package, and I think we had seen that before, but I think we didn't feel it came necessarily from the committee. It had come from you, I think.
Just gonna interrupt you there for 1 sec, Paul. So anytime that that the committee would want to make a recommendation to council, we'd probably need a motion from the committee, and I don't remember. I don't.
I think it was just correspondence.
Okay.
Yeah.
So matter of bringing that back to the committee and seeing if the committee as a whole would like to make a motion. So did you have another question? Go ahead.
I'm going to answer Brent's comment. The letter was signed by myself because I was part of the committee at the time. That letter was written because I discussed with all the chiefs of how they felt about Richmond County's policy. It was drafted as such on behalf of all the fire chiefs present. Also, on that note, the chief from Lewisdale brought up that there was good comments in it, and as well as the chief from Almaden, who supported a lot of the comments. So again, you've gone from having information in March of 2023, and we're still discussing dry hydrants now. And that's all I have.
Yeah. No, thank you, Paul. It's a good point, but definitely would want to know that anything coming as a recommendation to council has a motion from the Fire Services Committee. That's just a municipal process we follow. But we can take those points that were outlined in the letter, as Paul noted, and certainly that could form part of the discussion back to Fire Services, I'm sure. Does that make sense? Okay. Thank you, Paul. And I'm not hearing the phone ring, so are there any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, then, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone. And